Good morning, my beautiful babes and babettes. I am your resident active advocate, and guess what? I lied! The guy for the stove has one look at the thing, says he needs a spare part, and leaves. So I can get this out on time. Hooray! Today I would like to talk to you about, again, a fairly serious topic, institutionalization. Thankfully, as I said yesterday, this practice is getting less and less common. But the whole thing began as a way of separating people with disabilities, and especially intellectual disabilities, from the general populace. This again comes from the eugenic principle that people with disabilities should not be allowed to mix genetically with people without, because it lowers the value of the species and all of that garbage. So, along with the Industrial Revolution came a decrease of accidents that would create disabilities in people. So, in terms of physical disabilities, we actually got a lot better off. It became more a matter of such things as birth defects that would cause those sorts of things. But even pre-industrial revolution, people with mental illness, people with intellectual disabilities, were often very misunderstood by their communities, and hence were sometimes hidden away by their family. If the disability was not too severe, they would be allowed to do odd jobs around the community and to integrate at least somewhat to the extent to which they were capable. But if the thing were more severe, say a case of bad epilepsy, people being superstitious at the time would often believe that you were subject to the possession of a demon, and therefore you were considered evil and possibly even soulless. Dante taught that people with intellectual disabilities and people with epilepsy were destined for hell because they had been created without a soul. And that teaching is obviously disgusting, but it carried over into the post-industrial time, in which, because the mind could not necessarily fit the work that people were being compelled to do, people with intellectual disabilities and with neurological disabilities, such as epilepsy, such as schizophrenia, were often hidden away by their families and by their communities in these institutions, so that people did not have to look at them, hence did not have to understand them or attempt to do so. And people thought that this would also decrease fear within the community, because who knows what a person like that might do? And again, that's a disgusting teaching, and we know this, which is why institutionalization is on the decline. At the time, though, these institutions were often built almost to resemble a mix between a cathedral and a fortress. They could be very beautiful, but they were also very large and imposing places, and you wouldn't really want to live there necessarily, even if it is a rather lovely place to look at from the outside. Uh, Often the conditions on the inside were not sanitary, they were not friendly. The people who looked after the residents were often extraordinarily abusive and would force the residents, because they could, to do very unsanitary work, such as cleaning out cesspools. Now, this was a job in particular for people with intellectual disabilities, because they were thought incapable of understanding the conditions that they were being kept in. They were thought incapable of feeling pain and discomfort and cold and just all the difficult and horrible things that would go along with this work. So it wasn't until later, when science realized that this was not necessarily a fixable impairment in the brain, but that these people were absolutely capable of understanding what was going on in their environment, at least to a certain degree. And the problem with forcing people to work in these conditions is that you are ostensibly equating them to animals. And I mean lower order animals. Humans are animals, but we are, we are thinking creatures, we are sentient creatures, we have emotions, we have the desire for sociability, we have the desire to fit in. This came with us along in evolution and continues to evolve with us because it is beneficial to the species. This applies to every single human being. Every single human being has the capacity to love and therefore the capacity to want to be loved. When it came to institutionalization, it was a matter of keeping the quote undesirables out of the community, out of public life, therefore out of the public gaze. And I will be talking later on in this series about the politics of the gaze, how we look at one another. It isn't just people without disabilities looking at people with disabilities, it's how one person looks at another person, regardless of whether they're on even footing. Tomorrow, though, I would like to talk about another result of misunderstanding of disability, which is the use of slurs. And I'm going to get into my views on free speech when we get to tomorrow's video. I want to hear your thoughts in the comments section, if you please, about what you think exactly went wrong with institutionalization, how society could continue to evolve and better itself in order to incorporate people with intellectual disabilities and with mental disorders so as to make people happier, feel more loved, all that good human stuff. Thank you very, very much for your attention. Very happy to get this video out on time, and I will see you tomorrow. Mwah!